Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sober City. Thanks again for listening. My name is Seth, and I am an alcoholic still. Last week, we got to meet David, and this week, I got the opportunity to speak to his wife, who is amazing and has a lot of wisdom and input as far as what it looks like trying to navigate life in the turbulent waves of being married to an alcoholic. I don't know if you had the chance to listen to last week's. It was really awesome to get Chelsey's perspective. She has amazing outlook and a good understanding of what it looks like and how to navigate that kind of craziness. And just thrilled to actually get someone from the other side of this thing. Surprisingly, it's been very difficult for me to get a guest on that isn't an alcoholic or addict, but that is not for lack of trying. If you're listening and you have been able to overcome the insanity of living with an alcoholic or addict and are willing to share your perspective and wisdom and advice, man, I would love to have you on. But I can understand why it's probably difficult to be on and talk publicly about that experience. But it is your journey, and you'd be surprised how many people would love to hear your perspective because it is a lonely, dark place when you are living with a family member or loved one that is dealing with this stuff. Once again, though, if you or someone you know is struggling with alcoholism or addiction, my information is in the show notes. Please reach out at any time. I am available always. Thank you for listening. Your support and encouragement means more than you know. With all that said, life is beautiful. Sobriety is worth it. Thank God for today. This is Sober City. Hey, Chelsey, welcome to Sober City.
Hey, hello.
Well, good to see you. We're actually on Zoom, but good to talk to you. I had an amazing conversation with your studly husband last week.
Yes, Dudley.
He's the best. He is a dude.
He is.
I love that. Good dude. And so we got to hear his side.
Yes.
His side of the chaos.
Yeah, it's a good side.
Yeah, I don't know if it was good, but yeah, he's got a good perspective now for sure. And I'm super excited that you're willing now to kind of give your perspective and kind of tell us what it was like for you when he was going through it. But before we get to the David chapter, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about who you are? And I know you were a Young Life kid when I was a Young Life leader,
Yeah, yes, I was.
aging
Yeah.
myself a little bit.
Both of us. You're aging both of us.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, at least you were in high school when I
That's
was young.
rude.
Yeah. So I remember you as a Young Life kid, and then you graduated from high school. You graduated high school from Rapid, and then what happened with you then?
Yeah, so I stayed in Rapid and I went to WDT. I got a business associate's degree and I worked and nannied, all the stuff, stayed in the area, and I knew my husband, like, who didn't know him in high school? Like, everyone knew who he was in high school, and so I knew who he was, but we just kinda, like, we knew all the same people, we went to different schools, we went knew all the same, like, went to the same churches and different stuff like that, so we crossed paths multiple times, but we actually didn't know each other, and so finally met my husband in, let's see, I was 22, so we met in 2013, and yeah, it was off to the races. Everything moved really quickly after that. So,
Yeah, you guys
uh,
did move kind of quick. I think we
yeah,
talked about it in the episode. I think you guys were dating, engaged, and married in a year.
super fast. And, I always wanted to be married and have a family. And so I was just kind of like gung ho. and, And with marrying him, I became a mom immediately too, because he had a kiddo from a previous relationship. And so it was just kind of, you hit the start button and you run with it. So let's back up a little bit. So met my husband and we met through some mutual friends, and he had told me kind of as we started to like talk more and entertain the idea of dating, he had told me that he had been to rehab. And before that, I really didn't know like what addiction looked like, honestly. I had the like stereotypical image in my head, right? Like I think you and David called it out, like the bum under the bridge, or the abusive relationships and stuff like that. I had that in my head. And so I didn't really know what that looked like for David.
Right.
So
Yeah, he's definitely not the stereotype.
no.
He's an attractive dude, clean cut, and he seems like he's got it put together.
And so I had no clue what to expect from that. He would have been 21. What did he say? 2021 when he went to rehab the first time? No, 22. 22. And so I was kind of shocked. I didn't know like okay, I didn't ask any questions. I was so naive to what that looked like. And well, first of all, let's back up a little bit. I want to make sure that my intentions are clear with this with to the audience as well. I don't want this to be bashing on my husband. I value my husband and love and honor and cherish my husband so much. And so I don't want to like this conversation to like bring him down or likewise put me on a pedestal either. Like I'm no saint in any of this. And so I just want to make sure that is clear. And then also, I know that everyone's journey in recovery looks so different. And there are the situations where there is abuse, there is infidelity, there's, all these things. And our journey does not look like that. I'm very grateful for that. But I do empathize that many journeys do include those things. And so I'm not naive to, think that those aren't there. And so it's, I can be positive now that I'm like 8 years on this side of it. It still sucked. It still was
Oh
not
yeah,
fun. But I want to make sure that I do empathize with those situations that are a lot more difficult than ours was. So,
for sure. That's
okay.
fair.
So we'll get back into it. Sorry for that side note. And so yeah, I met my husband. We started dating. He told me that he had gone to rehab. I kind of made the assumption like, oh, you went to rehab, you had a drinking problem, it's fixed now. Like, don't have to think about it. It's done. It's over. It will never rear its head again. That was like my super naive thoughts on it. And I kind of like wore it like a badge of honor for him, if that makes sense. Like, if he would be like, oh, tell me about your boyfriend, I'd be like, oh, he's been to rehab. Like, but he's like taken care of, which is a very poor image to hold on to. And so, yeah, we dated for 7 months and we got engaged. We were married 2 months later. So, super fast. He was living in Montana, I was still in South Dakota. And so he was lonely. And hindsight, now looking back, like he was dabbling and probably drinking a bit because I can like play different like text conversations or phone conversations in my head. And I'm like, that's not who he is. And I didn't know that then. And so he was lonely. And I think that that is kind of like what propelled like marriage a little bit faster than probably we would have. And so, yeah, we got married and we got pregnant right away. He was in college, he was in flight school, he was a CFI, so a certified flight instructor as well. I was working at a dental office. I had moved to Montana and, we were figuring out the newlywed life. We were figuring out the co parenting life with his son, our oldest, figuring all that out. And so things were fine. Things were good. He wasn't drinking during like that first period of marriage, but he definitely still had like addictive tendencies and characteristics. And so what I mean by that is he drank and ate copious amounts of sugar, which I think is quite common to like replace the addiction with another thing, right? If you're not actually in recovery or, working on yourself and all that kind of stuff. And so he was drinking soda left and right, like coffee, peanut M&Ms, gummy bears, like so now looking back at that, like, okay, he was replacing the alcohol with sugar. So so there was that, and then we had our first daughter or our first child together, and I think he told the story of, we bought our first house together. Things were seemingly going really well. He was going to be starting at a regional airline, so he graduated college, moved past all of that kind of stuff and kind of started moving forward in his career, and he had gone on a ski trip with 2 of his buddies from high school that he's still friends with, and they were having a couple beers, and he was like, "Hey, guys, I really think that I'm in a good place. I think that I could probably have a couple beers, I have a wife, I have a family, I'm moving up in my career, all the things," right? Like, he really convinced himself that he would be able to have a couple beers with his friends. And he came home and he told me, he didn't try to hide it. He told me, and I was like, "I don't know if that's a good idea." And so, not a good idea. No, turns out it wasn't.
Right.
But I had reached out to these 2 friends because I didn't know David in his pre-drinking day or, his before his first time at rehab. I didn't know him, and so I reached out to those friends and I was like, "Hey, like, what are your guys' thoughts about this?" And they were like, "Yeah, like, I think he's in a good spot." And I was like, "Okay." Like, again, totally naive to what he was like before or what any of this looked like, what addiction looked like, any of it. And so we kinda just, like, carried on our merry way, and yeah, he ended up going off to training, and that's when it just, like, really slipped in. He was away from home, and in training, like, you're sitting in a room for hours on end, and then everyone goes and has drinks at the end of the day, And nobody knew him there, nobody knew his past, and so he started drinking, and that was, like, months of, like, he would start picking, like, fights in texts, and then if I tried calling, he would maybe answer, but, like, I could gauge it pretty well, like, if he was gonna pick up or not, and even the pickup, it was like, "Okay, hang on a second," like, it was just
Yeah.
very right? This all, like, really clicking?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I know exactly what you're going to say before you say it. Yeah.
And picking the fights, I think that's a key point because then it fuels the reason to drink more or less, right? And so there was one period that he actually kind of went missing, and I didn't know any details on like the hotel he was staying in or anything, but hadn't heard from him in a couple of days. And so I got on a plane with my baby and went to Arizona to find him. And, his brother was calling hotels. I knew about the vicinity that he was because he would tell me, like, where he would walk to for dinner or whatever, and so I could kind of pinpoint the area that he was in Arizona, and so we were calling around, and I did end up finding him, and then I got stuck in Arizona for a week, and so we were able to get some counseling while we were there and that kinda stuff, but it still progressed, obviously. Um, so I returned home and yeah, I didn't really know the routes to take. And so I was just really trusting that God would handle this. Honestly, I was so oblivious to any of it. And it wasn't talked about back then. Like, I mean, this is, 9 years ago, right? 10 years. Yeah, 9 years ago. Like, addiction wasn't really talked about. Alcoholism wasn't really like an open conversation. It was almost taboo, right? I mean, I don't believe in that, but it was just kinda like, "Ah, don't rock boats." And so, yeah, so it was a couple months of just, like, the text fighting and arguments, and I knew, like, what I could or couldn't bring up in a conversation because I knew what would, like, put him over the edge for stress. And so, like, anything, like, financial at that point in the regionals, you just do not you back then, you just did not make any money. It was peanuts. I was managing a dental office, and I was the breadwinner. And
Oh,
so,
wow. Yeah.
it was just, it was awful. And so, like, even talking anything financial or anything, yeah, it was yeah, I just knew what I could and couldn't text. And so, moving forward, then this was kind of like a pivotal point for me when I realized the severity of it. Before I was like, okay, like he drinks and then he kind of like sobers up for a little bit and he drinks and like I didn't quite understand the severity of it until there was a period where he was home and he was like passing out on the couch. This is the only hands-on experience that I had with him drinking. And he for, like, 2 or 3 nights in a row, he would pass out on the couch at, like, 7 p.m., like, before our kids even went to bed. And I would, like, try waking him up, and he would, like, kinda come to, but he would be, like, crying and being like, "Something's really wrong." I'm like, "Man, like, this isn't this isn't normal." So I immediately went to his flight bag and kinda started digging for anything like drugs or even like little alcohol bottles from the plane or anything. Couldn't find anything. And I was like, okay, well, maybe he's just sick. I don't know. And so got ready for bed and I had like missed the trash can under the vanity. And so I like went to pick something up and behind the trash can were like Costco or Sam's Club sized mouthwash bottles empty. And I like had visions of like grocery shopping over the last 2 weeks, and I was like, I knew we bought mouthwash multiple weeks in a row. But what had happened was like we bought, I think they come in like 3 packs or whatever, right? Like big jumbos. And we had bought some like 2 weeks before, and then we bought some the next week. And I was like, we just bought mouthwash. And he was like, I don't think we ended up getting it, like, he tried to, like, totally, like, gloss over it and was like, "Ah, no, like, I don't think we ended up getting it," and I was like, "I know we got it." Like, back then, I had a pretty sharp brain, I was managing a dental office, like, I didn't have mom brain.
All right.
And so, I was like, "I know we got that." So, anyways, I wanna say that there were like 2 empty mouthwash bottles, again, bulk size, and then when I went and looked in the trash outside, there were another 3. So 5 jumbo mouthwash bottles, and then maybe like a 6th, like, half gone or something, and that's when I was like, "Yep," like, that's when, like, the light switch, like, went on. And so I was not happy. I was not happy. So I aggressively and probably poorly chose to line them on the coffee table so that way when he woke up in the morning, he saw them and knew that I knew what had happened. And so sure enough, he woke up. That day he was supposed to go to Denver to like a Blink 182 concert or something with his friends. And I called his friends that night when he was passed out and said, "Hey, like he's not coming. This is not gonna go well. And so he's not gonna be joining you guys." And then that also that day, the following day after he was passed out on the couch, we also found out that I was pregnant.
Ah, perfect. Yeah. Good.
So it was really great timing
Yeah.
for all the things. And so then that started 9 months. Yeah, just the back and forth, walking on eggshells of what conversations I could have and couldn't have with him because I didn't wanna set him off, and I thought that that was the right thing to do, and
Sure.
it wasn't, but I didn't know, and I was pregnant and I had a toddler and I had, another stuff, I was just juggling so many balls in the air. And so, yeah, 9 months of just back and forth. I would say it wasn't to my memory, it wasn't a ton. We were just busy. he had moved to a different regional airline during that time, and it was a healthier lifestyle, quality of life was higher, and so I just don't remember it being, like, really treacherous. Yes, there were obviously periods that we struggled and yeah, anyways, and so then yeah, the real kicker was I was 37 weeks pregnant, and I had just had my baby shower. And I started texting him, and I was just so excited. He was just getting off work. This is the, ambulance story. So, I he was just getting off work, so I knew he was coming home that night, and or thought he was coming home that night. And I was texting him so excited, like, "Hey, we got this for the baby. We got this," so excited. And then I was kinda running a tally, like, "Okay, like, it kinda looks like we still might need, this or this," and and that's when his texts were I could tell from his text that this was not he wasn't coming home, you know? It was always, "Oh, I can't get on because he flew Santa he commuted back then, and so he would have to commute to Denver and home, and so sometimes he couldn't get on the plane, but sometimes it was a choice that he wasn't getting on the plane. But that time I knew, just based off of his texts, he wasn't answering my phone calls. I knew he wasn't coming home. And at that point, we only had one car in Montana. His car was in Colorado, so I would have to go pick him up and drop him off at the airport. And so instinctually, I knew that I wasn't going to have to go to the airport to pick him up. So I knew what time his flight was landing, and I didn't go to the airport because I knew he wasn't going to be there. And around the same time, I think it was like 8:30 PM was when he would be landing. At like 8:23, I had gotten a phone call and I was like, "Oh, maybe he did come home. Huh, maybe I'm gonna be surprised."
Mhm.
No, it was the hospital
Yep.
in Denver telling me that they had my husband. Somebody had seen him passed out in the parking lot at the airport and called the ambulance, and they told me that he was too drunk to run any tests on him, and that they were assuming he had a brain bleed, but they needed to wait until the morning to run tests for him to sober up. So, yeah, again, I was 37 weeks pregnant. I couldn't find him. I certainly was not going to drive to him.
Yeah, of course. No.
Like, that was not realistic, and so I called a friend that lived nearby, and she came and stayed with me because I started having Braxton Hicks, I assumed, because I didn't really have our baby for another 5 days, and so maybe pre-labor Braxton Hicks it was stress induced, obviously, whatever it was, and so she stayed with me, and she had asked me that night. She was like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, you need to decide if you're gonna stay with your husband or not." And I was like, "Oh, that never crossed my mind. That never crossed my mind." Like, "No, I'm in this with him." Like, I I said vows, I'm in this with him. Like, I wanna stick this out. Like, I know his potential. I know his what this could, look like on the other side. And so excuse me, getting a little emotional. And so the next day, he called me from the hospital, and he in his story, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen because it really is the ambulance ride was his the game changed then. Like, that's when he was like, "Okay, I can't run from this anymore. This is when I'm caught. This is the, end game," like, I'm done. I'm finished. And in a good way, And so he ended up flying home the next day, like, the next evening, and it wasn't even a conversation between the 2 of us if he needed help, he just sought out help. I don't think he even asked me. I don't think he was even like, "Hey, what do you think?" I think he just called his company and was like, "I gotta figure this out."
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
That's good. Yeah.
and yeah, and so he was supposed to leave the next day after calling his company, but he's like, "My wife is about to have a baby. Is there any way that I can stay to watch my son be born?" And they were like, "Okay." And they checked in with him every single day. It's like, no pressure to have this baby.
Yeah.
Um,
Hurry
so
up, Chelsea. I got to get to
hurry
rehab.
up,
Yeah.
get it together. And so, yeah, I would say, like, I mean, you have kiddos too, and so, like, so much of, like, the joy was stripped. So much of the, like, having a baby together, it's like, "No, I need to have this baby so you can see him being born so you can go to rehab." Like, there was just a lot of joy stripped from me in that moment, and it was just more so necessity, and I remember going to my doctor's appointment that week and being too scared to tell her, like, why I needed to have that baby that week. She was like, "What do you mean, like, your husband can't get off work? Like, what do you mean?" I
Yeah.
was like, and I didn't tell her he needed to go to rehab. I didn't tell her. I don't know that it was that I felt, like, shameful. I think it was I was trying to protect my husband. I didn't know how much he wanted people to know, or, I wanted to respect him and honor him, and so I didn't wanna just go be blasting out, like, "Oh, he needs to go to rehab, so that's why I need to have this baby," because that seems quite selfish. Like,
It seems selfish.
if
Yeah.
we're, being honest. So, yeah, I ended up having our our baby at, like, 11:55 PM on a Friday. So then, of course, they keep you a full 24 hours, so I would have let but they didn't release me until, like, Sunday morning, and then David left Monday morning for rehab.
For how long?
A month,
30
28 days.
days. A 30-day
Yeah, 30
program.
days. Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you're home now with
Mhm.
two
I
babies.
2 yeah,
And
2
then
little,
you've
so it's
got, and
uh-huh.
then every other week you have David's from a previous
Yes.
relationship. So on certain weeks you'll have three kids, one of them being a newborn, and the other one was what, probably two?
2, 2.5, yeah.
Yeah, two and a
Mhm.
half year old and a
Yep,
newborn. And then
yeah.
David's, I think, would have been six, maybe
He would have been, let's see,
I think
7.
seven.
7,
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of work. So
Yeah.
single mom, and then you're also wrestling with. Were you at all wondering if this treatment doesn't work? Were you kind of maybe putting together an exit strategy, or was that totally out of your mind?
At that point, it was totally out of my mind. Honestly, I was just giving it all to God. I couldn't carry any of the control. Like, and that's where I will always say God's timing is perfect because I saw it, like, firsthand. I had no other option than to just completely surrender it because I had to focus on myself and my newborn baby and my toddler, and, like, I had so much other things to focus on, and I physically could not, like, even comprehend what David was doing at rehab, or what if this didn't work, or, like, we had nothing, We ended up having to sell our house because we made a poor decision in our
Financing.
financing of our house, thank you, and I, again, was the breadwinner at that time, but then when I had our son, I was gonna stay at home. So, I was out of a job, my husband was out of job. We just kinda started selling everything. By the time we ended up moving out of this house and selling it and moving out, we had hardly any furniture left because I had sold the majority of it. And so, yeah, I just, like, clung to the promise that, like, it was gonna be good, and I know that that's not the situation for all, but I really spent a lot of time clinging to the Lord in that time, and every time that I would nurse my newborn baby was my dedicated prayer time to my for my husband, And so, a newborn baby, that's every 2 to 3 hours. Every 2 to 3 hours, I was praying for my husband. And I mean, I'm sure I did more in that, but that was like my dedicated prayer time for my husband and for his sobriety and for the time that he was in rehab, getting to the root problem of why is he drinking? Why is he trying to quiet the mind? Like what is going on to to hopefully have long-term recovery and long-term peace. That way he's not, needing to quiet the head talk the rest of his life.
Right. And so then he gets out of treatment. And
Mhm.
what does the next year look like outside
Yes.
of you guys, yeah, having to sell everything and
Mhm.
move in
Yep.
with
Yep. So
parents?
he started up a painting business, which he mentioned, and that was where we got any money from. And yeah, we were really just treading water. And this is one of, I would say, my saving grace is I was very hands off with the expectations of him in his recovery. It was all on his company, on his airline at the time. They were setting the expectations, and I would say that was best case scenario because then I'm not a nagging wife. I can just be of support. You know, I he had mentioned that I can kind of tell if he's like slipping into some selfishness, or to this day, I can really pick up and like if he's just like lashing out at the kids or whatever, or me, like has an attitude with me, which is very unlike him. He doesn't really have an attitude with me.
Right. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
he's a
He's
very calm
he,
guy.
right, and he's even a very fun-loving dad, and so,
Yeah.
like, if he's, like, sure, or I can just really tell, like, if he's just getting, saucy, I'm like, "Hey, you probably need to go for a run or go for a bike ride. Do you need time alone?" If he's getting a funky attitude, I just kinda, like, encourage him to step away. Go for a run, go for a bike ride, go have a ski day, by yourself or with friends or whatever that looks like. If he's not away from us, he's fully with us. And so those are huge changes, like drastic changes to a life. I'm at home with my children all the time. I'm a stay-at-home mom, homeschool mom, so like it's a lot to like be fully apart and then fully submerged into home life, or immersed. And so I get it. I get it. If you need time away, go have time away. And so I really try to encourage that. And so during that period after he went to rehab, he had a lot of expectations on him from his company. He had to go to so many meetings, he had to go do so many psychological tests and counseling meetings, and oh my goodness, it was constant doctor's appointments. And so I really tried to be positive for him. I tried to be a safe landing place for him with boundaries, because throughout everything, throughout the years, there's trust that is broken. And so I think like allowing to be a safe landing place that he can like communicate with me, but also like within boundaries, like, hey, you still have these expectations as well. We have to build this trust. You don't just like get it back all automatically,
It'd be nice if we
um,
could. Just
it would
let's just get
surely be
right back
easy.
to what we had before I ruined it. Yeah.
I mean, truth be told, we didn't really start with much. So, because it started from the gate. So, yeah, I mean, over the 8.5 years, don't wanna do it all over again, but if it got us what we have now, it's truly worth it.
Absolutely. And Zoom kind of
Mhm.
lagged out for a second there, but I think what you were saying was what you have been able to rebuild since that.
Yep,
It's
yep,
obviously
yep,
worth it. But
yep.
yeah, we kind of got to hear David's ending, which is you guys are doing really well now. You've since
Mhm.
bought a home in Utah and he's flying and you're home homeschooling. And so we don't need to rehash that unless there's anything
Yeah.
else you want to add, because I'd like to kind of get into a lot of the other stuff because I think
Yeah.
you have a lot of wisdom.
Oh,
And
cool.
like I told you in the beginning, I'm super excited to get your perspective because
Yeah.
it's really easy to get an alcoholic or an addict on this podcast. But I have been struggling for a long time to get a spouse, a mom, a dad, a parent, anybody to tell us what it's like for them because
Yeah.
you guys are the forgotten, which I hate.
Mm-hmm.
Alcoholics and
Mm-hmm.
addicts become the sun to everyone's world. Everybody's talking about us. Even when you were just starting to date David or
Mm-hmm.
married and you kind of identified in that he went to rehab, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You even owned his problem then,
Yeah.
just because, and we like that. We like it to be about
Mm-hmm.
us. We like it when people are talking about us. Even when I was going through my stuff, Brittany would tell me, "Oh, my friends asked if Seth's okay." Right?
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to tell me that people are noticing that you're off.
Yeah.
And that just filled my ego because I thought,
Yeah.
oh, good. People are noticing I'm not happy. I'm going to
Yeah.
play that. I'm going to play that
Yep.
song over and over again. Eventually, people get tired of it, thankfully. But if you
Yeah.
can get in front of it early on, it saves a
Mm-hmm.
lot of headache and misery. But it is crazy how we just make it about us. Especially one thing that I really want to talk about is his unhealthy way of setting boundaries with you in the beginning, because in a way
Yeah.
it is a boundary. You know, not to mention finances. You knew there were certain things. Okay, I'm not even going to bring it up because it's going to be a
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you just avoided it. But
Yep.
obviously, you know now that's not what you want to do.
Yeah. For sure.
And so, what were those texts like? How did he respond? What was the tactic that he used? I'm sure I did the same thing, but I'd be
Mm-hmm.
curious to see if it is the same texting method.
Yeah. I don't fully like remember the all the details, but yeah, it would be something like, hey, especially because it was during my pregnancy, and so, like, bills just come in for all sorts of things, right? So,
Yeah.
especially, like, the financial stress texting, and so, like, I'd be like, "Hey, like, just so you know, because I never I manage all the finances or the majority of them, but I if there's something large, I want 'em aware that, like, that's going out, and still to this day, like, I'm not just gonna, like, pay something. I'm gonna pay it, but then I'm gonna let them know, like, "Hey, just so you know, like, this cost whatever, and it needed to go out." And so, like, it was kind of the same method back then, and I think it's also, like, still to this day, he's the one that brings in the finances now, like, I don't, and so I know that it's our money, like, we view it as our money, but I still, like, have the respect as the, like, financial provider, And so even back then, like, we were both contributing to finances, so therefore I wanted it to be an open conversation. And so, yeah, the texting would typically be like, "Hey, just so you know, like, this bill is due on whatever day," or, "Hey, can you take care of XYZ because say he's on a bill that I don't have access to, sometimes with utilities and stuff." And he would just be like he would just brush it off almost, like, he couldn't be responsible for anything, is really how that would be, and, yeah, then it would just kinda, like, start picking fights, like, "Well, why do you always have to control this, or why do you always have to pay attention to this, or, why does this need to be a conversation?" Type of thing, and so I kinda learned pretty quick, like, "Oh, okay, like, maybe I just need to deal with it, I guess?" I don't know.
Right, Chelsea. Yeah.
Um,
You're the problem. That's
um,
it. If you would just do what he wanted you to do, Well, that's exactly it. And I feel bad for you because you're like my first guest. You're my first wife that, no, not my first wife, my first codependent or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. And so I'm going to try to pick some stuff because all alcoholics and addicts are the same. We like to think we're special. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like as I'm listening to you talk, I'm like taking notes because I'm like, yes, I want to talk about that
Yeah.
because what you did is exactly what we want you to do, which is,
Mhm.
okay, I'm just not going to bring this up. Or you then look at yourself and say, okay, maybe I am wrong. And that's
Mhm.
how we want you to think that, well, Chelsey, why I'm upset because you're making me upset. And your healthy response, you as an adult and as a empathetic, normal person, then think, okay,
Mhm.
I need to look at myself and figure out what I'm doing wrong. And we use that against you to make you feel crazy and make you feel like you're the one that is making things difficult.
Yep.
And it's really upsetting because we don't know what you can do. Like David didn't have a suggestion as far as how we can avoid. There's no constructive criticism. There's only
Right.
criticism. And depending on what mood he's in, especially if he's been drinking, and that's why I laugh about the texting thing.
Mhm.
I hate texting.
Mhm.
Well, I like texting, but I hate texting as a means of having a serious, hard conversation because I used to do it. It was a way for us to be avoidant, which was one of the things you kind of mentioned. He's passive. If he
Yep.
wasn't upset, he was just avoidant or passive. And then if you pushed it, then he'd get upset and he'd deflect and make it about you. And then you
Mhm.
would kind of then turn into yourself and then figure out a way how you can do this without upsetting him. And
Mhm.
that's just a control tactic that we use that's
Yep.
unfair to you. But if it gets us out of having a conversation we don't want to have, then why not do it?
For
But
sure.
right?
I used to joke and say that this was just David's world and I'm just a part of it.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just living in it.
Now that's how alcoholics like it.
He's he's just the main character and I'm just like along for the ride.
Yes, we have the
So,
worst main character syndrome of
yep.
anybody.
Yep.
We are, yeah, we're the center of the universe. And like I mentioned on the episode with David, is so much of our problem is we're God. We
Yeah.
are God.
Yeah.
And that's why a big part of sobriety is having that relationship with a God outside of ourselves. But we like control so much that we just do everything we can to maintain it. And
Yeah.
a big part of that control, unfortunately, is manipulating and gaslighting our wives. Even though we're the crazy ones, if we can make you feel crazy, convince you you're crazy, man, then that puts us in a much better position to not address our insanity. Terrible. Talking to you, listening to you
Mhm.
just makes my skin crawl because it's so, oh, it's like, no, in a good way, just
Yeah.
because it's so heartbreaking. I hate this stuff. And the
Yeah.
reason why I'm so excited to have you as a guest, because I get calls from people that are like, can you call my son? Can you call my
Yep.
dad? Can you call whatever? And I say, I can give him my number, but
Mhm.
I can't help them unless they call.
Right.
I'm not just going to call him out of it. Just doesn't work like that. Just
It
like when
doesn't.
David got back from the hospital, he owned his sobriety and he said, I'm doing this thing. He didn't talk to you, which some people would be like, oh, that's not cool. But no, that's how it should
No.
work. It's
That's
like,
how it should work.
yeah,
When he's ready, like, when they
yeah.
are ready, like, they need to be ready, and it needs to act like, they need to act on it. They can't have anyone else making those decisions for them. I think that is a key point. We've watched many people in a similar situation, and they're trying to help the person, and there isn't. They have to get to a point where they are willing, where they are seeking out the help, not you handing them a book, say, "Read this," or you saying, "Hey, there's a meeting at such and such time," or like, they have to be willing to surrender that sin and that addiction in their time. Otherwise, they don't know how to be sober. They don't know how to seek out being sober because they have somebody else doing it for them? I think that is a key point. They have to be ready and they have to be making those decisions on their own.
And the sobriety, yeah, has to be theirs. They can't get sober
Mhm.
because they want to stay married or they don't want to lose their job.
Mm,
Those aren't reasons to get sober.
right. I
So
do think that often it does take a consequence. It's the same as when you discipline a child, right? If you just say, "No, don't do that," they're gonna be like, "I have no, like, repercussion, no consequence." And so you say, "No, don't do that, or you're going to lose something. You're going to lose screen time or, whatever. It's the same exact thing if they don't have like something that stings. And obviously, everyone's consequence level or severity is going to be different. For David, potentially losing his wife and his family wasn't what needed to happen. Unfortunately, I hate saying that, but he found his identity and his pride in his career. And so losing his career or that being threatened was what it took. And he openly admits that as well. And he absolutely hates that that's what it was, but that's where his identity was. And so, him losing that is what it took. And obviously he would be a different his answers would be different these days. But that's what it was. And so like I feel like a consequence or, sometimes everyone's rock bottom is just so different. I praise God that this was all ours was career threat or a career setback, if you will. I truly praise God that it did not need to be anything involvement on my part or yeah, he drove multiple times, and so I praise God that nobody was hurt, and, that's a lifelong consequence there, and so, yeah, I just praise God that our journey looks the way that it does because it
Yeah,
could
it
have
can always
been
be
much
worse.
worse.
It
Yeah.
can always be worse, no matter what situation you're in. I got
Yep.
got a guy that's in rehab right now, and it looks, you could definitely find the negatives right now. But gosh, I just spent a few minutes pointing out how much better it is for him. It could be worse. No matter what spot you're in, it could always be worse. When I was trying to get sober, we just have a negative attitude in general,
Mhm.
alcoholics and
Mhm.
addicts. We like the pity. We like the self-pity a lot. And so I would complain about my situation. And one guy said, "Well, where are you right now?" And I said, "I'm just sitting in my car in my parking lot." He's like, "Oh, you have a car?" It's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Is there gas in it?" It's like,
Mm.
"Yeah." And he's like, "What parking lot?" It's like, "Oh, at my office." "Oh, you still have your business?" You know what I mean? And we just work
Yeah.
our way up. And then
Yeah.
that's how you got to think
Yeah.
and it's really retraining your brain to have
Yeah.
an attitude of gratitude. We are so
Absolutely.
used to just focusing on the negative. We were so cynical and critical and prejudicial, all those things. And so, yeah, that's a good point. And like you said too, his attitude would be, or his perspective would be different now. His answer
Right.
would be different now. In the
Yeah.
beginning, that's what it took. Sure, yeah, losing your wings. That's what it took for him to get sober. But now that he
Yeah.
is sober and he's experienced what it means to be a father and a husband and present, now his family, and that's really the reality. I've had people say like, "Oh, it took him losing his job to get sober. Never mind that he's been a terrible husband and father all these years." And it's really just because we're so selfish that we just can't fathom doing anything for anyone else. And being a father and a husband is such a selfless position
Yeah.
that we have to learn how to become selfless before we can really appreciate what it means to be a husband and a dad.
Mm.
And so I try to explain that to people because they'll say, "Oh, yeah, lost his license. That's what got him sober. Never mind, I've been begging him for 4 years to get sober and
Yeah.
pleading and his kids pleading, but this thing got him." And it's like, that's right now. Just be grateful. That's what it is. And eventually, if he
Mhm.
works this thing and gets sober, he'll come around and he'll really understand what it means. Because absolutely, I could have easily been single and saw my kids as not as often as possible because it's just about me. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's something that I wanted to point out. So going into your earlier story,
Mhm.
yeah, when you had your second, gosh, I hate that. That's what made me sick. You were calling him, telling him all the stuff you got at the baby shower.
Yeah.
Oh man, and
Yeah.
then and
Yeah.
you're getting these texts, and you were just like, he's not coming home.
Yeah. Yeah, so I believe, like, in the text was like, "Hey, like, I think we still need a bassinet. I think we would really benefit from a bassinet." And, and he would be like, "I can't talk about this right now. Like, why are you talking about this?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Mm,
oh, okay. I guess I won't talk about a bassinet."
just selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of just let it. You let
Yeah.
and I understand why, but that's what I hate about it is, yeah, you just kinda, "Okay, I guess I won't talk about it."
Yeah.
And that's what hurts a lot, I think, is these
Mhm.
people will just they don't like to see you happy. I think that's
Mm,
one thing that's
mhm.
hard when you're in it is you want your outsides to look like your insides. So when you
Yeah.
call him to be excited about your plans for this baby, and
Mhm.
at that point, he's probably already drinking or he's planning to. In some cases, it doesn't matter. You're still
Right.
gonna talk and act like an alcoholic even while you're sober because you're thinking about alcohol. And
Mhm.
he's already getting into that, like, it's about me right now
Mhm.
because that's the mindset we have to have to start drinking is, you know what? It's about me, about my life, my job, my stress. I
Mhm.
can't talk to you about this right now, Chelsey. And just to clarify for the people listening, David flew out of Denver,
Yes.
right? So you guys are in
Yeah.
Billings.
Yes.
So when you talk about having to get them, you're talking about having to drive from Billings to Denver.
Right. So, yeah. Yeah, because I was like, "I can't fly," you know? And he would have needed to be so how I fly is he has to list me, still to this day. He has to list me. He has an app for an employee, and he has to list me, and that's how I fly standby. So even if I would have been able to fly to him, he would have had to be, like, available to list me.
Yeah, you can't
So
just go to the airport and say, "Hey, I'm David's wife."
I mean, I suppose I could have
Well,
bought
I
a
guess you
ticket,
could, but
but,
still, I'm just trying to get at there's a whole other level of technicalities that are involved. This isn't like he's flying into your local airport that's 20 minutes away. He's
mhm,
in Denver. You're in Billings.
yeah,
You've got, a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old. And,
yeah.
yeah, just the stress. And then, yeah, then
So
he makes it home.
yeah, so when I went to the airport to pick him up, this was kind of a pivotal moment for me too of like, okay, lay your judgments. Bury your judgments because as you drive to the airport in Billings, Montana, you pass, or one of the ways you get to the airport, you pass the hospitals, both of the hospitals. And typically there are drunk homeless people along the side of that road. And this particular time, there was an ambulance loading up a drunk homeless person. And I was like, well, shoot, I can't judge that because that was my husband last night, you know? And I was like, oh Lord, okay, I need to have a heart check because that was my husband last night. Somebody found him in a parking lot and had to call an ambulance on him. So that was kind of an eye opener, pivotal moment for me. Like, okay, like the judgments have to go. Your, preconceived thoughts of what alcoholism looks like have to go. This is now your husband. So,
Yeah, it
which
gives you a different
before,
perspective.
well, right, and everything was other than the mouthwash incident. Everything was via text and avoiding phone calls. Nothing else was tangible. Nothing else was like in my face other than the lack of communication or avoiding communication, if you will. So.
Yeah, and I think if somebody's listening and their significant other or family member struggling with alcoholism, the
Mhm.
texting thing is a very relatable common thread with us because we cannot articulate obviously very well when we're drinking. And we know that if we slur our words or if the other person can kind of pick up that we might be drunk, then our
Mhm.
position won't be taken as seriously. But
Right.
oh yeah, if we're sitting at a bar, we can
Mhm.
write the most articulate, well thought out texts, we think. And then then we go back and read them, and it's like I remember that sounding way better when I was writing it. But that's what it is. I can't talk right now. Just text me. Just text me. No, I don't text. And
Yeah.
I'll still get that. I'll get texts from guys, and I could tell. And then it's immediate block. I don't do that. I'm not, because the thing I hate about texting too is you are at their beck and call.
Yeah.
You're doing whatever, and
And
your
you're like
phone.
begging for attention.
Yeah,
Like you're just like, come on, text me that. Come on.
texting
Like
back. You're
you're
just waiting, and then you get it, and then you're reading their words,
Yeah.
And you're like, what the heck? And you're trying to text, and he's like, can I just call you? No, I don't want to call you. And it's just a
Yeah.
way to uh, push you away, but also pull you in when I'm
Yep.
ready. I'll send you a
Yep.
text, and it's like little mental grenades, these texts.
Yeah. Sure. Yep.
Because
Or
those,
he would sometimes answer a call and it would be like, okay, hang on a second. And even like to this day, if he like says like, okay, hang on a second, I'm like, oh,
yeah, triggered.
makes you mad. I mean, I like to think that we're so far removed from it, but it does just bring back more so memories and reminders of how far we've come. Like I don't like panic or anything like that. I really haven't ever been like a worrisome panic or anxious wife in any of this, but I do like it just sends back memories for
That's
sure.
natural, and that's a
Yeah.
survival instinct, and that is
Mhm.
something you had to learn
Yeah.
because you had to figure out how to live. And
Yeah.
that was your ability to make yourself safe. You had to protect yourself. And yeah, yeah, it's been 8 years, 9 years. And you still have these little moments where you're like, what's that mean? And that's okay. I think that's all right. I think it's good that you acknowledge it and recognize it for what it is. But I don't know. I couldn't expect you to really ever get over that. That's what I tell Brittany is, and there's times I get frustrated with Brittany because she'll have a reaction to something. I'm like, good grief. It's been like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
2 years
Yeah.
is not a long time
2 years. It's not a
when
long
it comes to
time.
trauma. When it
Trauma.
comes to trauma,
Yeah.
that's forever. And what's frustrating with alcoholics is we're like, we've been sober 60 days. Give me a
Yeah.
break. Because for
Well,
us,
because you look at it day by day.
yeah, it's a day by day, and the
Yeah.
60 days is an eternity for
Yeah.
us. But so we're like, oh, this is a long time. I
Yep.
should have a parade by now. But no, it's forever. And I don't even, I would say, like I tell Brittany, I don't expect you to ever trust me.
Mhm, mhm.
That level of dishonesty and deceit and manipulation,
Yeah,
your brain has to file that away and just keep it in your back pocket because you have to be ready. You just never know with this thing,
yeah,
which is scary. And that's where it goes to what you were saying with faith.
yeah,
The opposite of faith is fear.
yeah.
You cannot live in fear. And so you have to have this balancing act of being maybe prepared, but also just
Mhm,
not worried about it. Because the other thing I tell Brittany is you women are incredibly resilient.
mhm, mhm.
And also, when the moment comes and you have to get into mama bear mode, you show
Yeah,
up, you do what you
yeah,
have to do. So, the best thing to do is have faith in not just God, but yourself that something happens, heaven forbid, and or David relapses, whatever, you just have
yeah,
faith. I've been here and I
yeah.
know how to get out and I know what to
Yeah,
do. And you just get
mhm,
into that and you approach it in a healthier way than you did initially because you're younger, you're
yeah,
in a vulnerable position,
yeah,
and now you're in a different spot. You have this wisdom and you have a better perspective. Because one of the questions I wanted to ask you was when David said, I think I can drink again, you had no point of reference.
right.
You don't know drunk
Nothing,
David.
no, huh? And I do, if I recall correctly, he even I don't know if this is a lie or not. I don't know where the but he did actually say like, "Oh, my first time in rehab, one of the therapists told me like, you might be able to drink later in life. You might be this might just be a stressful season." He experienced some things in college and, he had a child really young. And so she's like, "You might just be in a season where that was your coping mechanism, and so you might be able to drink again sometime in life."
Mm.
And so it was almost as if he clung to that in hopes,
Oh,
whatever.
100%. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah,
can't believe that somebody in rehab. I would be hard pressed. I think that's a college educated therapist. That is not an alcoholic. I would never, because that could kill somebody saying something
yeah,
like that. Oh, maybe this is stressful. No, if you even have an inkling that you're no, if you're in treatment, you have a
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Period. You can't drink like there's no, oh, I'm just in treatment because I'm going through a stressful chapter. You have a problem with alcohol. And if you can't let that go, it's gonna get worse and worse. And you could die or you can kill somebody. It's just crazy. Somebody the other day told me that in treatment, they said, oh, it usually takes about 4 or 5 relapses before they get it figured out. And I said, that person just told that person they can relapse 4 or 5 times before they
Right.
have to really get sober. They got
Mhm.
4 or 5 get out of jail free cards. It's like they have no idea that little thing. Like you said, David clung to that. I would have clung to that. Oh, you're right. Because we are so focused on being able to drink like a normal person. Any little semblance or any idea that we can, we'll ride that train till it falls off the tracks, which it eventually does.
Right. You're not surrendering that addiction and that sin. You're putting it in your back pocket and hoping that you can bring it out again
Which he
sometime.
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which he did.
Yeah.
And then you
Mhm.
were thinking, okay, I don't know what this looks like. And you
Mm.
can't. And the hard thing for you is you can't really say no. You could say no. You could say no
Yeah.
all you want.
And in all fairness, I did question it,
Absolutely should. Yeah.
and questioned,
Yeah.
some of the people that were involved in his life in the first period. And so, yeah, but I trusted their insight, and
When you say
I think
their insight, whose insight?
his two friends,
Yeah. And what did they
um,
say? They kind of signed off on it as well.
yeah, they were like, I think he's right. Like he's just in a different time,
Oh yeah. Okay. Sure.
he was in college then and he was experiencing a lot back then. And so like, yeah, I think he's right. Like he might be fine to have a beer or two. And I mean,
A beer or
I
two.
still yeah, 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 it doesn't stay that way. And so I mean, I still like we still are friends with these
Oh yeah,
friends
and
and
there's nothing. Yeah, and I don't pass judgment on them. They're totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're fine
they were
with
in the
what.
same boat as I
Yeah.
was, like, they didn't know either, and so and there's no fault, but, yeah, I guess yeah, yeah, it just
That's it.
wasn't
And
yeah.
then, man, off to the races. Go drink, buddy. Let us know
Yeah,
how it goes, but brutal. Uh,
yeah,
and I get it. It takes work to get there. I know when I tried to get sober in 2014, I was quote unquote sober for 5 years, but I was drinking any chance I got. And that's how it looks.
oh
Oh, yeah, I'm
my,
sober. I've been sober for 5 years. No, as soon as you're not paying attention, I'm on a trip, whatever, I'm drinking because I'm
yeah,
not sober for me. I'm sober because I want my wife to stop complaining about it or whatever it was at that point.
yeah,
And yeah, 2019, I told Brittany, hey, I'm in a different place than I was in 2014. I'm more mature, more financially established. In 2014, we just had a kid. I just bought a business. Of course, I'm going to drink then.
mhm,
So it's just like, and if you use alcohol in that way, you have a problem. I think,
mhm,
if Chelsea, if I told you, hey, you shouldn't drink ever again, I don't
mhm.
think you would be like, I mean, I don't think you'd have a problem with it. I think same with Brittany.
I don't drink,
There you
I'm
go. And I think most people are like, oh, I guess I could live with or without it for the most part. I know there's some people that are, and that's fine. But I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
and really, alcoholism isn't solely. I mean, alcohol is really just a small part of alcoholism because yeah, it's just that insanity, the control, selfishness, all that other stuff that we have to
mhm,
figure out how to address
yeah,
uh, once we put down the thing that's making life worse. Because that's just our solution. It's not a problem.
right,
It just seems
right,
like a problem. And yeah, the you found those mouthwash bottles
yeah.
in his spot. And I was laughing when you were saying you're moving a trash can or something.
Yeah. Yep, so
And
they were,
they're
like, behind the trash can under, like, the sink.
under the sink. Yeah. They moved that.
Yep,
And then there's this empty mouthwash.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. It's funny how we stash them, right? And what's crazy is those were empties, right?
right,
So you would think that if he was really good at it, he would throw them away in the dumpster or something. Put it in your car and drive it to a gas station.
right.
But it's crazy the degree of laziness when it comes to us hiding things. I
Mhm,
think there's almost a component of just wanting to get caught, but also what it really boils down to is the shame because we say, Chelsea, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be in the bathroom, right? And then meanwhile, we're in there chugging our mouthwash, whatever it is. And then we
mhm.
hide it in the only place that you can hide an empty bottle in the bathroom, which is under the sink, behind a trash
Yeah,
can, or under a towel
right.
or something, those were my go-to spots too, because the bathroom's the easiest place to take a pull because
You
bathroom
lock
or the
yourself in
garage.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're not going to have to worry
mm,
about somebody walking in on you while you're chugging mouthwash.
yeah,
And what happens then, though, is we sober up after doing
yeah,
that. And it
mhm,
is really hard for us to go back and look at our mess. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Somebody the other day was like, he just had 20 empty bottles in his golf bag or something. Why wouldn't he
Mm,
just throw it away? And it really
mhm,
is, it's like £1,000,000 to have to
mm,
go into the bath and address our empties. It's easy for us to address our fulls, but once they're empty, it's really hard to go in there. And then we got to find a way to get the empty out. Like we feel like we're putting ourselves in a position to get exposed. So we just leave them there. And it's sad, but it makes sense. It's like looking at our mess, and getting our
right.
nose rubbed in it. So we'll just leave it there. And then Chelsey finds it.
Yeah.
And what did that look like after that moment for you? You canceled the Blink 182 concert.
I think it was Blink, if I remember right. Yeah, I called his friends, which were the same friends from before, and I was like, "Yeah, he's not," because I think it was in Denver, and so he was gonna fly, and I was like, "Yeah, he's not coming." And
No.
they were like, I said, "This drinking thing hasn't panned out the way that you guys thought it would." And they were obviously 110% supportive. And so, yeah, the next morning when he finally came to and saw that I had lined the bottles on the coffee table, like, we had approached a plan, I guess.
Yeah.
I think he had maybe promised he would start going to meetings, and, I think David mentioned in his podcast that meetings really, like AA meetings, really aren't for him. I know that they are so beneficial for many other people, but they aren't something that helps his, like, sobriety and his day-to-day decisions. His commitment to God and his relationship with God and his time that he sits with the Lord is really his priority, and that's where he grounds himself, that's where he gets his strength for the day. And so, like, I know that some people need the meetings, and that's totally fine. We're not against them, but,
Yeah, there's no right or
um
wrong way to get sober.
no,
Just get
no,
sober. And that's one thing I always try to
exactly.
push so that nobody can say, oh, you're doing it wrong.
Not at
No,
all.
it just worked for you.
Yep.
And so,
And likewise for me, I did try to go to an Al-Anon, and it was that was hard. I No, that was not for me either.
yeah, and
So
Al-Anon is basically AA for
yes,
family members,
yes,
right? It's like,
yep,
yeah,
yep, yep. And so, yeah, so at that point, he, I think, had promised to go to meetings, and it just obviously didn't stick, or he would go to a meeting and then, go back to drinking, and it was just kind of a ping pong ball game for 9 months because we had just found out that we were pregnant
yeah, perfect
with
timing to
our,
find out you're
yeah,
pregnant, right?
oh,
When you find empties. And that's really how it goes, though, because you're surprised when things go bad, they go bad in numbers. It's not just finding the bottles. Oh, by the way, I'm also pregnant and I got this revelation. And then during that 9-month period, you didn't find any more empties. There was just the texting. There's like probably your
yeah, nothing
intuition.
at home. Yeah, exactly. Yep, it was nothing hands-on at home, and I wanna say that it wasn't even, like, many occurrences him away, like, working and having the text. Yes, it happened, but I can't even recall that it was much. Because we were actually, during that time too, we were planning on franchising with a business, a baby store, and so during that time, we were actually communicating a lot about business aspects, and so there weren't a ton of, if I recall right, there weren't a lot of, like, ping pong texts and
Yeah, you just
whatnot,
got
but
busy with
I'm sure they
life.
were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But nothing really stood out to you.
Nothing standing,
And
yeah.
one time you said he went MIA in Arizona,
Yep,
and that was before the mouthwash thing. That was probably
that was
before he
before, yep.
wanted to start
Mhm.
drinking again, I think, even.
Yeah, that was shortly after he and his friends thought that he could start
Okay,
drinking
so
again.
after that
Excuse
conversation's
me.
had, and
Mhm.
then
And I did reach out to, like, a couple of the pilots that he was in training with to try finding him, to try locating him, and when I was like, "Hey, he's an alcoholic," they were like, "Oh, shoot." Like, they knew once I said it. They had been, like, partying or
of course,
drinking quite
absolutely.
heavily, maybe not partying, but drinking heavily whenever training was over. And yeah, I do wanna clarify, like, he has never put passengers at risk or in danger. This has all been in off time. I wanna make that
Of
clear
course, yeah,
because
that's
I
right.
don't.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get it. And the thing is David mentioned on his episode, it's pretty
Mhm.
regulated when it
Yeah.
comes
Oh,
to
very. Yeah.
pilots
Yeah.
and everything. And so I
Yeah.
can assure everyone it's been vetted
Yeah.
thoroughly. So yeah, no, that's good. But okay, so that's interesting because you essentially kind of sign off on him drinking. I mean, to a degree, I think as much as you can. Like I said, you could tell him no, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
All you're doing is
It was more so in the context of like, oh, we could go to dinner and have a beer together,
that's
you
right.
know.
Sure.
It was more like that, not like, hey, you can go sit
Oh,
in your hotel room and drink. Like that
no, I
wasn't the
wouldn't
like
think you would sign
notion.
off on that. Yeah, I'm sure you were like, okay, yeah, you can have a glass of wine with dinner, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah,
is sounds terrible to me,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
normal people do, I guess.
I guess.
And so then, but that's interesting because when you talk to his pilots, you you said he's an alcoholic,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You said
Well,
it,
yeah,
and
to
so you kind of had
yeah.
that, you already had that kind of idea, and so when he went missing, then you had to go to Arizona. What kind of condition was he in when you found him? Was he intoxicated when you found him?
No, I know he was at the training department where he
Supposed to
should
be.
have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but he made it a point to because he knew I was coming, and so he did make it a point to switch hotel rooms because I think that the last hotel room was
Yeah.
probably not in good shape.
That's
Uh,
it. Yeah. Time to clean up and try to look
yeah,
as presentable as possible. The wife's on her way. Oh, that's stressful. I remember when Britt would take a trip, and the day she's coming back, I'm scrambling, cleaning the house, doing everything I can, and making sure there's not a bottle cap somewhere or something, and and then she'd come home, and for like a week, I'm still like anxious, right? That
paranoid.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
something's gonna show up. I
yeah.
make sure that take the trash bags and put them in a trash can next county
And
over.
she's probably like, "Oh wow, you cleaned the
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
house."
World's best husband. And I'm
Yeah,
sure when you found David,
yeah.
I'm sure he had his reasons for being missing, right? Or it wasn't because of
No,
alcohol.
yeah, he knew that I knew. He didn't have any, like, excuse, or he didn't try to hide it. He knew that I
Yeah.
knew, and that's why he switched. He didn't, like, try to hide the switching of a hotel room either. He was like, "Hey, like, it wasn't good." And so I
Oh,
switched because you and, our daughter were coming, and I was like, "Okay." And so we actually walked to a church near-ish by to try to get, like, immediate counsel, and he wasn't great, but
no.
it was what it was. I think that, unfortunately, a lot of churches have a really hard time with that because it is a sin issue, and there's a fine line between addiction and sin. I mean, it is what it is. Like they're the same, but like some people don't view them as. Anyways, I won't get into that. But and so he tried. He did his best, and I was stuck there for a week because I was flying standby and couldn't get home, and so it ended up being like I was babysitting him for a week, I guess, if you
Oh,
wanna
and
put
I'm
it
sure
that
he felt
way,
like
but
that too. If my wife wasn't here,
for
I'd be able to
sure.
drink.
Yeah,
Why don't you guys
yeah,
go back? Let's try to speed you getting back home sooner than
yeah.
later because I'd like to get back to doing what I was doing before. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And oh, yeah. And like you said, babysitting. Yeah, you feel like you're a mother of three in
Yep.
that moment. Yeah, that's
Well, and then
exhausting.
the pilots that he became close with that I had talked to were then, like, almost babysitting as well too,
Yeah, because you
because
kind of
they
outed him, and now those guys are like, "Hey, I'm not
Mhm.
comfortable drinking with you anymore, buddy. Your wife,
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's good. I think that's all right. And when you talk about going to counseling, you go to these churches or whatever, you go
Mhm.
to counseling, and that's good. But
Mhm.
one thing I would kind of preface or forewarn people
Mhm.
is for us alcoholics and addicts, those are our battlegrounds for
Yeah.
further reinforcing the idea that you're the crazy one, you're the problem. If you go into
Stirs
that,
the pot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, how can I get the therapist to say what I've been saying? So then we can then corner my wife and make her
Mhm.
feel like the one that's the problem. If they're
Mhm.
not ready, you know, you go to counseling, you go to therapy, but bringing them in because you're going in wanting to repair the marriage, you're going in wanting to be productive and constructive. We will go in with an agenda,
Yeah.
and the agenda
Yeah.
is not to repair the
To
marriage.
it's to be deceitful, yeah, and get what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
we can do it in a church I see people use church as a way to further manipulate and leverage. And
Sure.
man, I can smell it. I can see it
Yeah.
because I'm guilty of it. I used it, did it too. I had my therapist on as a guest recently or a few weeks ago, and it was the best conversation because I think for the first time in my life, it was probably the first time I was fully honest with her in an hour. It felt
Yeah.
great. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is awesome. And I can reassure you that everything I was saying was crazy. And that's what's hard too with Brittany. Sometimes she'll say something and I'll agree. And she's like, do you know how many fights we've had over that topic?
Mhm.
And I think that's got to be super exhausting and frustrating for her because how much energy
Mhm.
she spent knowing she's not crazy,
Yeah.
but I just kept spitting it back. No, you're crazy.
Yeah.
No, you need to. And you really, like you did, take it to heart. Like, okay, I'm doing something wrong here.
Yeah.
And real quick too, it's funny when you mention mouthwash. I don't know if people listening realize, but the mouthwash that contains alcohol, it's like 14 to 22%. Glass of wine is 12%. So it's pretty. It does the trick.
That's the trick.
Yeah, it
Yep.
doesn't. People may think it's not that much, but yeah, you drink a bottle of that. Yeah, you'll end up, and it's not alcohol you should be drinking though.
Right.
Um, but
Right. That's like
regardless, though,
cleaning alcohol.
yeah,
Like that's yeah.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You get a buzz. It gets you not feeling like you, and that's
Right.
what's
Which is
important
the
to us.
point. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Z-Quil is another one. If it's Z-Quil with alcohol in it, I think that's 10%.
Oh
And
yeah.
I know these things because I used to like drinking Z-Quil. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
yeah, we'd have
Yeah.
Z-Quil, and I would just drink the whole thing. And for me, I didn't realize it was so much the alcohol as much as I just want to sleep
Mm.
quickly. And
Quiet the brain and
yeah,
just
and
shut
I'm
it off.
sure. And then I made some notes so I could talk about protecting the drunk.
Mm.
Right
Mm.
when you were talking to your OBGYN, I believe it
Mhm.
was,
Yeah.
and they were like, why are you pressed for time? Like your
Yes.
husband can't get time off for his work, and
Yeah.
then what? You're not being honest. You're
Well, and I found out later what that got me with my doctor at the time. I love my doctor, so there wasn't anything bad about that. But
no,
I could kind of chalk it up like he's a pilot, because that is kind of a non-traditional label,
and it
or
maintains appearances.
sure,
My
for
husband's a
sure.
pilot, and I think pilots' wives have kind of an identity in that as well, right? There's so
I try not to live in that, but yes,
no, of course,
they
but
do.
I think it's yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
still get it.
sure.
Like we are what
There's
we
an image.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an
Mhm.
image.
And so then later, like at my, 6-week appointment postpartum, I did end telling her what had happened over the last month and or 6 weeks. And she immediately wanted to prescribe me antidepressants. And I was like, "Nope, I'm good." I'm like, he and I are working it out. Like we're working it out with God. And so nope, I don't need antidepressants. And so I think I like hindsight, like kind of knew that that would be the route that they were going to take, or I think it was kind of protecting myself because I just didn't know what was going to happen. And it was the one thing that like I could control in that moment. I don't have control issues. I am so like off, the hands person, but like there was a lot out of control in that moment. And if I could just control this one thing of like me and my baby at that moment, then I was just going to hang on to it, like not everyone needs to know in this moment. And so I don't know, like maybe protecting him, but also maybe just like cling to something just
Sure.
to not rock boats,
Yeah, it may not be entirely him, but I think there's a component of honesty. Either way, you were not being honest, and so whatever the reason being, and that's part of what this thing does is it makes
Yes,
liars out of people that typically would not lie, and it
exactly.
makes sane people insane. And I think to give credit to your doctor, and I would agree, a concern that I would have in that moment is postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And given what led up to you giving birth,
Sure.
so the idea of like kind of jumping to antidepressants is like your husband's gone, you're doing this
Mhm.
as a single mom.
Mhm.
Your mental health is vital. If there's a
Yeah.
way that we can at least, even though medicine or prescription drugs isn't the preferred method, it is
Yeah.
definitely okay to do it. And I think that that was probably their thought because, yeah, I would, if I knew what was going on with you and you're home alone. I know
Mhm.
some women that have had some very serious postpartum depression, and the
Absolutely. Mhm.
thoughts that they had in those moments is terrifying.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, yeah, it's something to take seriously for sure. But I just wanted to point out, yeah, that protecting the alcoholic,
Mhm.
we tend to close the door
Mhm.
and have our battles inside.
Mhm.
How much better did you feel when you were honest with your doctor, or kind of, then you just feel like, okay, now, and this is somebody, you weren't gossiping,
Yeah.
you weren't doing it to put your husband down. You're doing it because they're a trusted professional and they benefit from knowing what's going on at home.
Mhm.
And it's good to have people like that. You don't need to post it on Facebook, although if you want to, you can, if that
Yeah.
helps you. But you got to have people. I remember Brittany when she went on a trip with friends, and I think I talked about this before, but I can't stress it enough because when she went on this trip, I asked her, "What all did you tell your friends about us? Right? What did they
Mhm.
tell them?" And she didn't like that with good reason.
Mm.
But that was part of my control. As long
Yeah.
as people don't know what's going on with us, the better. Because, and I think I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now, is I don't like that healthy outside perspective influencing my wife, because if I can
Mm.
manipulate her into my insane world, I'm going
Mm.
to prefer that over somebody telling her, Brittany, like your friend did, right? Your
Yeah.
friend showed up and said, Chelsey, what's your plan? Are you leaving this guy? You should think about it. And again, it's totally your journey and you
Right.
decided not to, but still to have a sounding board, somebody that's healthy,
Right.
because we make your life so crazy
Yeah.
that we think about the big crazies, but it's all these little crazies that compound and eventually, like, what's real anymore?
Yeah, an outsider looking in, and yeah, they just see things from a different perspective. So,
Right. And we
mhm.
allow, I mean, and I think that is part of the survival part of it, which is you allow a certain degree of insanity because by addressing it, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to address it. It's easier to just say, okay, maybe I just do this from now on and I'll avoid the conflict.
Mhm.
To go back to like kind of triggers and mistrust, and we touch on a little bit, but what's something like now that takes you back? Because I don't think it's been 9 years, and it's surprising how
Yeah.
quickly you go back to that time period.
Sure, yeah. Honestly, I was pregnant and postpartum, so I don't know if I remember a ton, but,
That's it. Yeah, that's
uh,
fair.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't honestly have a ton.
No, I
It
would say
there is the one, thing when he'll, like, draw out like, "Okay,
a
hang on
topic.
1 second," or,
Yeah.
yeah, like, and I'm like, "Ah, don't do that." Like,
Right.
not that I'm, like, fearful. I don't live in fear, absolutely not. But it definitely
It's still
sends you
that
back.
avoidant personality thing
Yeah.
that is a big part of us as addicts and alcoholics. That's why we drink and do everything, because we don't like to confront certain things. And actually, I think it's good. Like it's probably annoying for you, and I think that's
Mm,
fair. But that's something Brittany I still work on, is like, hey, if I can't talk about something right now, like I will, that's like kind of a boundary thing for us, is not right now. Like I know you
mhm.
want to talk about something serious, but if I know when I'm in
Yeah.
selfish mode and I'm not going to be able to help you in a manner that I know I can, or I'm concerned that if this doesn't go well, I'm going to revert even further into selfish
Mm,
mode and say something I'll regret. And so, and I think that's hard for Brittany too sometimes, because for her, she's like, let's hash this out, right? Or,
yeah.
but
Well, and if she's anything like me, it just sits on your head. If you
yeah,
can't talk about it when you're thinking about it, or like you have a running checklist in your head and you're like, oh man, I really would like to just talk about this.
yeah, now I have to
Uh,
wait. Now I have to wait to get this conversation done, especially if it's a hard thing to talk about. But yeah, you just got to trust. Like we know when we're in that place. And so for David, yeah, if he's like, not right now, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But what's not
Mm-hmm.
normal is then never talking about it again. That's
Right.
selfish.
Right.
And so that's one thing I have to recognize that might be something I prefer not to talk about, but for me to just continue to avoid. And that's an old coping mechanism. It's
Yep.
crazy. Brittany and I are, after being together since 2008, are just
Mm-hmm.
now learning how to communicate because
Oh man, I think that's the biggest part of it. You have to relearn how to communicate because it was just so unhealthy before. And so, yeah, we were in the same exact position. You just kind of have to like relearn how to communicate, how to trust, like just all of it. Communication is the biggest like key part of it all because that's where you build your trust. That's where you understand the head talk or the each other's point of views. So I think communication through it is the best thing.
it's
So
huge. Yeah. And understanding and empathizing from your perspective. Because, yeah,
absolutely.
you obviously don't understand chugging mouthwash. That's easy to say, but
No.
also you don't understand, like, why can't we just talk about it now? Why it would be
Hmm.
more productive? We're having a conversation or whatever. But yeah, there's this whole other part of this thing that's tough because
Yeah.
it's just like, not drinking's easy. It's living life and
Right.
it's a daily thing. Like I think David
Yep.
and I mentioned was we don't get better. I mean, we're every day having to
Hmm. Hmm.
recognize where we're at mentally and spiritually. And it's quick when we slip. We can slip fast. So we have to be on guard, but in a manner that's not fearful, right? Just like you. And so, same thing with you. And just like for us, we can revert right back to how we used to be. Same, you can revert right back to fearful
Hmm.
or wanting to control the situation as well, which is something that you just can't do. You can't control David. You can only control yourself. You
Hmm.
can't control your kids, unfortunately, right?
Nah, no,
Yeah.
certainly
So
not.
just the only thing you can control is yourself and then
Yep.
give the rest to God. And as
Yep.
long as you do that, you turn out all right and life's a lot easier to live.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, man, kudos to you guys, though. I told David you should write a book. I don't know. It's just the craziest. To come out of that
It's
is
wild.
powerful, and I'm grateful that you both are willing to share your story
Yeah.
because it's important and it's all you have, really. David had a health scare recently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that was no result of drinking. That's just sometimes we have health issues, and
Yeah.
that's just you can complain about it or use it as self pity, or you can just accept it and do what you need to do to get better. But still, our health could disappear, money, financially. You guys had money,
Mhm.
you had a house, you had all these things.
Yep.
And David told that story about when you guys were pulling out of that driveway.
Oh. Mm.
I can't imagine. Yeah. And you said, let's just make sure we never end up in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's I think with the health scare recently, he's like, "Well, at least I know that this wasn't, like, my actions." There was a purpose in it, like, we trust that, like, God took him out of work for a reason, whether it was to our family to have quality time. I don't who knows? Like we have our speculations of a couple of things of what God was working on, but at least we know it wasn't because of his actions and he surrendered that. He's working on that every day and yeah. But yeah, we do cling to our experience because it has made us people we are. It has man refined our marriage, restored our marriage into something so spectacular. I'm so grateful for my husband. So yeah.
That's it. And yeah, when you're pulling out of that driveway, that was a result of his drinking, right? And
Yeah.
that's tough to deal with.
Yeah.
But that's what I tell people now is I could really experience some pretty tragic things.
Hmm.
And I feel confident I'll be okay because I'm confident it's not going to be as a result of me
Yeah.
being selfish, right? I'm really intentional about how I'm living and I'm living honestly,
Hmm.
which
Yep.
is huge. Honesty is the best. It's hard, but it's so much easier to be honest. The other night I came home and Brittany seemed a little upset. Uh, She seems upset with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her what was wrong, and she's like, "Oh, we'll talk about it later." And old Seth would have had
Mm.
a whole log of
Yeah.
things What did she find? Did I
Yeah.
leave something in my pockets? Did she check a
Mm,
checking account? Did she find some? Right. But in that moment,
mhm.
I was just like, I know it's not something haven't done anything. I might have forgot maybe to put clothes in the dryer, right? Like that happens and that's okay. But I know it's not because she found my weed or something,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
or, now when she's like, hey, I need to borrow your car, I don't have a mini heart
Mhm.
attack because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what's in my car right now? And I had, yeah, that's that talk about living in fear,
Mhm.
living dishonesty. I think Mark Twain said it best. He said, to live honestly is easier because you don't have to remember anything.
Yeah.
And that is the truth. When
It's
you
true. The lies get stuffed in the closet or under a rug or under a bed, and they just grow, grow,
grow and
grow.
then you have to remember what you told one person. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
tricky. So, well, awesome, Chelsey. I sure appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thanks
And
for
it's,
having
oh
me.
man, and I think you've said a lot of good things that are going to be able to help other people who have to live with alcoholics and addicts. And something I just is so important is you matter.
Mm,
You're a person. This isn't
mm,
David's marriage. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and I've been saying that to the people that are listening
yeah.
because alcoholics will make it all about them as much as possible. And because for some reason, alcoholics end up with the most amazing, selfless people. It is mind boggling. Like my wife,
Mhm,
like you, I
mhm,
know other people that are living
mhm,
with current alcoholics, active
mhm,
alcoholics, and the stuff they endure and tolerate and forgive
mhm,
breaks my heart. And for some reason, I think there's a component of wanting to fix or save somebody,
mm.
but also I think there's a divine plan in there that
Sure, absolutely.
together we make a
Mhm,
great team. Like Brittany is the strongest person I've ever met, and
mhm.
now that I'm sober and I get to appreciate that,
Yeah,
we're developing into an amazing team and
awesome.
continually get better. And I think the same thing for you and David. So kudos to you guys. Keep being the change we need to see in the world. Keep being vocal. And I'm so happy for you both. You are the best.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chelsey. We'll talk to you guys
Bye.
later.
Yeah.
Bye.